me now when I make all these dumb mistakes.
Yeah, yeah.
And so he was having a time. Well, tell
That's
me,
funny.
how's your life going?
Good.
Good.
Just trucking along.
And how's the language?
Good. Well,
Do it.
it's going good.
And how's your wife?
Good.
All you gonna say is good, right?
Yeah, I mean I mean everything's been great. I'm getting ready to make another trip to China with them. That's kind of what's on my mind right now, other than, just the daily routine.
So when are you going to China with them?
The 4th of next month. So the 4th through the 8th. I mean the 11th, I'm sorry.
Okay.
4th through the 11th.
That
Yeah.
would be a quick trip. Tell me about well, before we talk about the trip to China, tell me about, at least on the news here, China circled your island.
Yeah, it's funny because I had no idea. I mean, that's just
Really?
how, yeah, and that's just how, that's really how it is here. I mean, unless um, I watched the news afterwards here. I just so happened not to watch the news. I think it was a couple of days where they were really talking about it, where I wouldn't. If you had watched the news here, you would have known it. But I think most people, especially young people here, they don't really watch the on the TV news. So there were a lot of young people that didn't know about it either.
So nobody felt threatened then.
No, I don't think so. Um, I think they're just so used to it, which I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but it just seems like they're just so used to all of it at this point that they never take it seriously. Um, I don't know that they would ever take anything seriously until it actually happened, which again is why I'm saying I don't know if it's a good thing to be too used to it, but that's just how they are at this point.
So you didn't see anything, you didn't hear anything until days after.
Right.
So on the news here, you were almost completely blockaded and ships were driving around the island.
Yeah, I
Now
heard it
there,
was like 30 ships or something.
something like that.
Um, yeah, it's pretty wild. Not surprising because it was Taiwan's national day when they did it.
That's why they're doing it, probably to say you are not a country,
Right.
and maybe why they were doing it. But the people don't seem to be the least bit bothered or anything.
No, your everyday, your normal everyday Taiwanese. They don't pay attention to any of that. Um, so even the national day here is, in my opinion, it's a bit awkward because it's almost like they're wanting to say they're independent, but they just won't come out and say it. I mean, they'll hint toward it, especially what I mean is on TV, well, publicly they won't. They're politicians and stuff. So it's just kind of I don't know, such a weird thing. The young people are really disconnected from it all, and so they're more adamant that Taiwan is independent than anyone. Um, but my age and really above that age group, they still understand that Taiwanese most Taiwanese came from China, and so they definitely feel a connection and really feel like they are to some degree.
Well, that is crazy. That is crazy. So tell me about Chris. You want to say anything there? You just jumped in on the conversation.
No, I barely heard what y'all are even talking about. I just got out of a breakfast appointment, didn't think I was going to be able to make it. And then, you know, just was able to get out in time to get in a little bit. So, and I'm headed to another appointment. So,
Well, looks like I think that's Nate Wilkerson's with us too, but we're talking about how China blockaded or put like 30 ships around Taiwan, and he said nobody even knew that happened. Nobody even realized it. So that's kind of a weird way of looking at things, I think. Well, tell us about your trip and your plans. Where are you going? What are you going to do? What's the plan?
Um, well, the goal for me really is just to get the kids and Cheyenne there to see, I know it's only 8 days, but give them 7 days, 8 days, give them opportunity to see kind of the difference between Taiwan and China a little bit. We'll spend time with Austin Till and his family there, and we may go to a service with them. I'm going to leave that up to him. We'd already talked about it. I think he's okay with it, but we'll see.
So how long does it take you to fly from your house to theirs?
Well, we're going to fly into Shanghai because the city they live in don't have an airport. So be 2 hours to Shanghai and then an hour by car to his house or where he lives.
So 2 hours to Shanghai,
Right.
and then you rent a car or what?
Yeah, I'm going to rent a taxi, like a bus taxi, van taxi.
You'll drive or you'll be paying a driver?
I'll pay a driver.
Okay. And he will stay with you the whole time or just to get to the city?
Well, we're probably going to go to our hotel alone and then meet up with him after the fact. But yeah, I think every day he'll probably come along unless we don't want him to for some reason. But
And what does that cost you?
the rooms and flights and everything would be the flights. I can't remember. I want to say probably around 2,000 USD
Well,
with everything.
That's
It's not too bad.
That's very reasonable, I think.
Yeah, hotels in China aren't too bad.
I've stayed in quite a few of them. I'm telling you, they can be pretty hard beds.
Yeah, there's Asian beds.
Do you have a hard bed at your house?
No, I don't. I have a bed from IKEA, but I got a mattress topper put on it.
Well, the mattress is on. I stayed in some of the places I stayed in China. I promise it was like sleeping on plywood.
Yeah. Not much different. I know.
Yeah.
I always wonder, like, why do you even have a mattress? You could just put a box here.
Okay, so Austin Till the Lord seems to be blessing him.
Yeah, it seems to be going well. I went to a service when I visited last time with him there, and it was great. He seems like the people he's got coming right now, because of different situations. He may have everybody there on one Sunday, but then the next Sunday he may only have one of them show up or something. But it's just how it is right now for him.
Well, I mean, your dad knows what that feels like, and you know what that feels like.
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
even Americans aren't. This Sunday I preached at Shady Grove, and I think nearly half the people weren't there. I thought that was crazy.
Yep.
I thought that was literally crazy. Okay. So are you going to stay all the time there in his town?
No, we're actually going to stay in Shanghai. I didn't mention this. We're going to stay in Shanghai the first couple of days there.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's just. I'm going to try to get out, and I'm just kind of see Shanghai with the family. Try to make it fun a little bit there. Before we get busy. We've even talked about going to Disneyland in Shanghai, but I don't know if we will or not.
Wow, they got Disneyland in Shanghai.
Yeah, they got Disneyland there.
How do you say Disneyland?
I have no idea. That's a good question.
Okay. Shanghai is supposedly a lot more expensive than other parts of China. Is that correct?
Yeah, Shanghai is very expensive. But the hotels there, like I've checked the hotel we're staying in, it's not any different. So I don't know why that is, but like food and all that, when you go out and eat and stuff, yeah, it's crazy.
Okay. So you just wanted to go to Shanghai because it's on the route, or do you feel like Shanghai is where you might go end up as a missionary, or what?
Really that because it's just on the route. Yeah.
Okay. Are you aiming towards northern, middle, or central, or southern China?
I think Suzhou is a good possibility at this point, but I mean, a lot of it still has to do with, what university will work with us. On the last trip that I went, we went to Chengdu, Kunming, and then we went to Suzhou after that. And in every city, we spent a lot of time just going to universities and talking to people. Well, we went to universities originally just to see if we could get in because we heard that you couldn't get into universities in China right now. And we ended up getting into every single one. So I think that was just because they had just recently changed the policy on that. I really think you couldn't get into university before, but I mean, they had to get our passport information and then scanned your face, like everywhere in China right now, but do all that, but you still enter at least. And so that was pretty good.
Will they give you a visa? And the second question, will your wife have to study?
In the city of Chengdu, we went to the largest university there. And I talked to a guy at their language department, and they said they could give me a visa. They all said the same thing, basically. They all said they could give me a visa, but they said their only responsibility is me. So whether my family can come or not is not up to them. So that would be something that during the process, I mean, going to the embassy in the US, I'll have to find out, go there and just try to go through the process and see if they stop me, basically.
Okay, and so you're going to apply for your visas when you're back in the US.
Right. Although we just got their tourist visas last week, so that was good. Those are 90-day visas, but 90 days isn't.
Does China have a bad attitude towards you because of having a Taiwanese visa?
They don't know I had one because we all had to get new passports. That was another process we had to go through. We had to get new passports first, and then apply for visas for there.
So they do not. They don't want you to be in Taiwan.
No, if they knew, it would be an issue. Yeah.
So you now have 2 U.S. passports?
No, they punched holes in the old one, so
Oh,
I
really?
still only have one. Yeah.
I read online that people, for diplomatic reasons, could actually have 2 passports. So what do you do about your visa then?
I'm sorry.
What do you do about your Taiwanese visa?
Oh, because in Taiwan, I don't need a visa. You need it to enter, but then after that, you can get an ARC, which is like a 1-year renewed card, like a residence card.
Yeah.
So that's nice. I mean, it makes it a lot easier here, but.
And so right now, what are your plans? You're coming back here when?
March, the end of March.
And then when you come back here, then you'll be here through December, right?
Right.
And then from there you will try to get into somewhere. So you've got to figure out where you're going now.
Right. Basically, that's the next step for me.
Okay. So the next question is, are you planning on deciding that before you arrive in China, before you come back to the US, or are you going to wait and go back?
I'll probably have to wait a little bit to figure that out, because once I get the process started, like if I wanted to reach out to a school in Suzhou, for instance, about a possibility of coming to study, I would need to do that within a time frame that it would seem like I'm actually coming, like I need you guys to help me soon. That was kind of what I ran into when I went to China last time, because I was talking to them and they were like, well, I understand your plans to come here in 2025, but that, it seems so far, 2026, the beginning of 2026. So that seems so far away for them. I mean, they were like, yeah, we can help you, but they didn't, it kind of ends there. You can't really go forward with anything.
Do you speak to them in Chinese or English when you're at the university?
English.
And Austin Teal translates for you, or what?
No, we both speak English.
That's
just because
that's got to be hard for Austin.
It is hard for him. Like, yeah, very hard.
because he understands everything in both languages.
Right.
Uh, what differences have you found in the language between there and Taiwan when you go?
I mean, obviously words are probably the main thing. Accents, I mean, the way they speak's a lot different as well, but that doesn't affect me as much. So it's definitely just the words they use. It's pretty big difference actually.
Okay. And
But
so,
I've studied like the way they speak here, so it wasn't like I wasn't like caught off guard totally. Like I study simplified Chinese in Taiwan, which is not easy because I'm surrounded by traditional Chinese, which is not very similar. I mean, it is, but it isn't. So
okay,
yeah.
walk me through your plans on how you are helping your family prepare for such a big move.
Other than just being here in Taiwan and trying to encourage them to learn the language and prepare in that way, I don't know that I have I don't know that I know what I'm doing. It's probably the best way to put it.
Okay. So, how much, like, do you guys have discussions, family devotions, or anything where you hear their inquietudes, their worries or their concerns, and they say, we're nervous about it, or do you not even hear that?
We definitely have times where we talk about it, and I think, you know, Cheyenne's got stuff she's concerned about, but nothing out of the ordinary, nothing that, you know, you wouldn't normally just be thinking about, I guess, as somebody moving to a new country. Or Macy, I just I don't think they know what to be concerned about. So I don't know that I hear a lot specifically about China. Just because I don't know, you know, I don't think they know what to expect in a lot of ways. So
Okay,
How
Christopher,
how is their Chinese and how is your Chinese? Like on, 5+ down to level 1, what would you say it is?
I'd say I'm level 3, and
That's awesome.
the kids are, I don't know, it's hard to measure the kids. The kids do really well in um, like daily talk, and then of course, you know, because all their Chinese is at school, so in that environment they do well. But there's depends on the subject with them a lot. Of
Gotcha.
course, I'm the same, I guess, in a lot of ways. I mean,
What about your wife? So you said if she was at level 2, what would you say she's at?
yeah, she's probably a level 2 if I remember the criteria. It's been a little bit since I looked at it, but yeah, I'd say she's probably level 2 at this point.
Gotcha.
okay. Chris, did you have another question?
No, that was it. I'm actually going inside here. So
I like your steering wheel. What are you driving?
Tesla.
Man, I tell you,
Ask,
he sold out.
ask Hefe what he's driving.
I don't even, I'm sick. I don't want to ask. I'm scared.
I'm driving a MacBook Pro right now.
You got a Tesla too?
I got a Tesla also.
Oh man, Robert, what have you done? You allowed this.
Hey, I'm still voting for Trump.
I'm voting for Kamala. Hey, even John MacArthur came out for Trump. You believe that?
Does he normally not make any political statements?
Not really, and he's almost been anti-Trump because he's not a good man. But he said, I can't associate with a party that kills babies and destroys marriage and doesn't protect us. And so anyway, he was pretty strong.
Wow.
Okay, when I was thinking about this meeting today, my thoughts were to talk about and discuss how you lead your family and especially your wife in massive changes. And I knew that because Lennon's been on vacation, and so we didn't give as much warning, and I didn't want to bother him, and then he did it anyway, so I could have bothered him, but um, I figured maybe it would just be you, and so I wanted, I really want you, I want you to consider and work on how you lead gently your wife and how you get past Trent to help her, because it's a normal thing for us men to feel like our wives are okay, and we don't even communicate on the same level. I don't mean that in an ugly way, but it's like men talk here and women talk here, or vice versa. And I've been married 51 years, so I do have an idea that even after all these years, Betty and I don't always communicate. So, I just thought I'd throw that at you today. So is that gonna make you mad if I ask you some questions?
No, come on.
Okay, here's my first one that I really have spent a lot of time working on in my life, and I've written quite a bit about it. And that's called actively listening. How would you define actively listening?
Listening without thinking about your response, probably,
That's
which I don't do well at.
That's number one. That's the first thing. So not preparing to speak, but actually listening and hearing what she has to say. Actually listening and hearing what she has to say. And so, a second step, I think, in actively listening is to, and this may come across as weird or dumb or whatever, but you got to actually see her. And by that, I mean, I don't mean that you look and say, I see her, but somehow you got to penetrate the skin, penetrate the exterior, and get into her heart and hear her heartbeat, hear her fears, and get past anything you're thinking. So actively listening, I think, goes beyond just not preparing to speak. It actually means getting out of my skin and into her skin. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but the way she expresses things and the way she feels about things and the way you feel about things are going to be almost polar opposites. And we are aggressors, achievers. We're on our way towards a goal, and she's a responder. And she is, and I don't mean this in any way ugly, but she is basically at your mercy. And so is my wife at my mercy. I mean, wives that are trying to follow their husbands are basically saying, I trust you, take me where you need to take me, do with me what you need to do with me. And so I would like to add, I'd like to give you some homework between now and the time we talk again, and that is to, let me talk about you just a second, and then I'm going to shut up and let you say something. But you're basically a rough, I can do it country boy. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, probably.
I mean, you're not afraid. You're not worried. You'll handle it. Whatever happens, you're going to be okay. Junk might happen, but you'll make it. Is that a description?
Yeah, that's pretty much how I feel about it.
Okay. Now then, how does a woman feel about it? This is called this is called actively listening. How does a woman feel about it?
Good question.
Would you agree that she doesn't feel about it the same way you do?
Right.
See, I don't, I wanted to talk to you about this because I don't think you really realize how different she is than you. And basically, you're kind of like, look, woman, just hush. I got it under control. I'll take care of it. You don't have to worry about anything. I don't know what your problem is. I'm Trent Coker. I'm the man from Adairsville. Ain't nothing I can't do. Ain't nowhere I can't go. I've always accomplished everything I ever set out to do. Bless God, I am the man. And I think that's Trent Coker. And I think that's reasonable. I'm glad you feel that way. You should feel that way. But I think that somewhere along this trip, you need to get out of that skin and into vulnerable. Now, watch what I'm about to say here. When I say fake, I don't mean fake. Let's just say that women put forth a face of trust that says, I love you, baby, and I trust you, and I know you're going to take care of me. But that's face out, and inside they're like, oh boy, I'm nervous. Would you agree that I am not stretching that?
Yes, I would agree with that.
Okay, now what do we do to get out of your skin into her skin so that you can talk to her? You know, there was somebody put out something on some kind of social media the other day that said a 6-second kiss releases endorphins and a 20-second hug does the same thing. So every time I walk by Betty now, she wants to grab me and hold me for 20 seconds. And I'm ready to leave in 2. I'm like, hug, go. I mean, it's just different. So how can you hear what she's really thinking that may not even be saying?
I can't say I'm very good at that.
Okay? I want to challenge you to work on it. You know what the Bible says about your praying? When you don't know how to say it, he knows how to hear it. The groanings of our spirit, right?
Right.
He understands and he hears us. And you're to love her like Jesus loves the church. And I mean, Jesus can easily say, I got it all under control, boys, chill. But he doesn't just do that. He still listens to me. And he actually lives in my skin. I am crucified with Christ. I'm not alive. He's alive in me, but the life which I now live, I mean, that's the verse. So how do you get into her skin over the next 2 weeks before we talk again and try to figure out? So here's what I want to ask you to do. I want you to figure out what in her heart that she would be like a child and say, this scares me. And then I want you to know that without her telling you. And I want you to answer that before she asks you. So before you go on this trip, a woman, where are we going to live? You need to see some apartments. How secure is it going to be? Do I have to worry about where my kids are going to be? In other words, I want to challenge you to preemptively strike where her fears are. If I were with you in the old days, I used to travel with everybody, and we were going to take your family to China. We would go to every place I knew a woman needed to go, and you would honestly say to me while we were doing it, I don't need to see this. And I would say to you, I know you don't. Because you're going to say, they got to eat here, so there's food. But she's not going to say that.
Right.
Okay, go ahead. I won't let you talk now. And Robert, you can jump in and say what you want to say.
No,
too.
that's good. Actually, I was thinking about on this trip whether that I'm glad you mentioned that because I'd went and the time before last when I went to Suzhou, we looked at apartments, but she wasn't with me. But I'd showed her some pictures of all the apartments we looked at, and so this time I was thinking, is it, do I need to line that up again?
Yes.
But
yes, she wants to know that she wants to know that you're thinking about everything she's worried about without her telling you. That's what I'm calling active listening. So I was in China, and one of the apartments that one of the missionaries lived in, and when you walked in downstairs, the door was broken. The secure door was broken, and the man didn't care, and the woman did care. And when you stepped in, the lights were off, but you could clap your hands and the lights would come on, or you could move quickly and the lights would come on. So you could flash your arms or clap and your lights would come on. So it was some kind of motion, sound, light. I even told him, I said, your wife thinks somebody could be hiding in that corner.
oh yeah,
And he was like, no, that they don't do that here. That ain't like that here. And I said, they're people, so they got bad people here too, just like they do anywhere else. I would like to challenge you I want you to go to more than one apartment. I'm challenging you. You do what you want to do. You're a grown man. I'm just giving ideas. More than one apartment. Go to a supermarket. Go to a place where she buys clothes for the kids. And you're going to hate it. No, you're going to hate it. You're going to be like, Lord, like, God, I want to start a church. That's what I'm looking for. And she's going to be like, I got to take care of a family. I've never even been to the night market. Do you ever go to the night market?
yeah.
Well, I've never even been, and I've been in China and Taiwan, and they've always invited me to the night market. I'm like, I don't care about no night market. But on this trip, your wife needs to go to the night market in China. She needs to see apartments. She needs to maybe visit a school. Where would your kids be in school? She needs to realize, maybe Austin Till helps. So I would tell you, if I were still working with you, as far as like, if I were the pastor of Vision still, or I was in charge of the mission agency, I'd be talking to you about even having a notebook with every conceivable question she could ask. So like, can we have a pet? I don't know if that's what they care about, but lots of families want a dog or a cat or whatever. Can we have a pet? How do you get a pet? Where do you go to the market? Where do you buy clothes? What about if you're like, I have been with missionaries in Africa who had diabetes problems, and I took them to the hospitals to find out if we could get medical treatment. So school, house, market, clothes, fun activities, security. I would challenge you to sit down and make an entire list of her fears. Honestly, a good husband loves his wife like Christ loves the church. And Christ became one of us to reach us. So in a lot of ways, I challenge you to become one with her enough that you know her fears and you can answer them. All right, I'm going to hush and let you say something. I got more questions, but I'll stop right there for a second.
I don't have anything. That's good. I'm just listening.
Okay,
I got
But-
some,
okay.
like, you were saying this, cause he said he's already been there and he's already seen all that stuff. And,
Can you hear him?
He says his mic's off, but I can still hear him. Is it
Okay.
using a different mic?
I'm right here. I didn't want it to echo or anything like that.
Oh,
So I was thinking, like, you said, have her be there with you. He said he's already been there. He sent pictures. Like, I think that there's probably something to do with in the psyche that whenever you're with her, it's like we're doing this together. Like when we were looking for a church building, you just didn't go out and try to find a piece of property by yourself. You got the entire staff, and we were all driving around, and sometimes people wonder, like, why are we spending this time out there? I think it helped us buy into the fact that we're doing this together in our mind, like this is us as a team. And I think that like what you just said, like I sent her pictures, and I'm not saying that you did anything wrong, but I'm just saying, like, you send pictures to like supporting churches, and you send pictures to your parents or something like that, somebody that way you know that they care about you, but they're not in it together. It's a little different when they're with you, standing right next to you, you're walking through each room and you're looking at the doors and stuff like that. Then they think they have a part of that. I don't know. I mean, that just made me think
Right.
of that, saying that, like, how important it is to have her there and see every aspect. Like, where do I go to a salon? Where do I go get makeup?
I didn't mention salon,
Where do I do this? Where do I do that?
toenails and fingernails and hair.
Like, yeah, that
Hey, I'm telling you, even down to feminine products, they won't know about them. And we never think about them because we don't use any of the stuff they use.
well, I've got.
right.
Robert's got all girls, so he knows all about it. He's got 4 girls in his house. They're all grown women. I would say also, while I'm on it, okay, I'm gonna talk to you about, I had many missionaries' kids do not want to be missionaries and do not like the mission field, and a lot of them don't like God. And I think a lot of it has to do with how daddy didn't pastor the wife and the family. And when you're pastoring, you have to be very patient because church people don't always do what they ought to do and they don't respond right. And you got to go slow. And so when I say pastor, I mean that with your wife and kids. So for example, and I don't know anything about your children, but they can be involved in sports, maybe basketball in China, or with my kids, it was rollerblades, skateboards, bicycles, soccer, basketball. I spent a lot of money. At one time, my son Chris was riding a high-powered, expensive 10-speed bike in I don't know how you say it in English. It was in a circular bicycle ring where when you ride it, the bike goes up on the sides.
Right.
Velodrome. I don't know what it is in English. And I never even went there, but I knew he wanted that. And when Chris was, I don't know how old he was, 18, we upped him to buy a car in Peru. So all I'm saying is my kids really love Peru and they love the mission field and they still love God. And I would like to remind you to go over on this trip, I want you in her skin as much as you can be in there. I want you thinking, not what does Trent need to see, but it's like when we're dating. When we're dating, we are literally, go back all the years ago when you were dating, you were trying to win her heart to you. So you are doing stuff you would never do. Once you get married, it's like, fool on that junk. I caught her. She's mine now. But then it was like, what does she want to eat? Where does she want to go? What does she want to see? What does she want? It wasn't like, I'm fixing to go skydiving. And so on our date, we're going skydiving. You didn't do that, did you?
No,
No, because she wouldn't want that. Now you're like, I'm going skydiving. You say to her, Tess, I'm give a rip. See the difference?
yeah,
And so changing mission fields, changing countries, you said a while ago, she only has the concerns anybody would have changing countries. Can I just remind you, 90% of the people in the world don't change countries?
it's true.
Maybe 95%. I mean, outside of the missionaries that who else has changed countries?
Make a good point.
When my brother was in the military and they moved him to Panama, they gave him a book, a 3-ring binder, probably 500 pages in it, explaining everything about it. Where the McDonald's were that they had put on the base, the Burger King, the bowling alley, everything. And he showed it to me, and I was like, Lord help me, if a missionary had that. And when you're in the United States military, they take America to you. I was in England, and the missionaries and the military people in this church I was preaching at, they did not like English Coke, English Coca-Cola. But on base, they could buy American Coca-Cola shipped in from the US for them. Well, that's not the way it works for us. And so we have to get beyond our skin and into her skin. And then you got to sit down with your kids and let's see, how old is your oldest now? 9?
9, yeah,
Okay. In 9 years, they're gone. And at 9, she won't, it's a her, right?
right,
Now she will be nearly 11 when you get back, when you go to
right,
town.
right.
Okay, 11. I'm not trying to be
She'll be
ugly.
10.
Huh?
You should be 10, yeah.
Well, how long before she turns 11? In
No,
26,
it should be like 7 months.
you're gonna listen to me. She's at that age when things start happening.
Yeah,
10, 11, 12. Everything goes out the window. And you're down to 7, 8 years, and she's a grown woman out of the house. I need you to see into the future and see where that girl's going to be when she's 14. I need you to plan her success. This is how she's going to study. This is how she's going to get to enjoy the junk that a 14-year-old girl ought to get to enjoy. This is how she is going to enjoy life in China. And so all of that plays into what you're doing on this trip. So I don't mean to be rude, but heavy hangs on you because you got to move out of Trent, move into the wife and kids, and say, I am going to help them love what God's called us to do. Because I probably won't be alive when they're grown. But if I am alive, I want to be able to hear them say, our dad always thought about us. Our dad always had us in mind. My husband always looked into my future, saw what I needed. My husband was never thinking about what he wanted. He was always taking care of us.
no pressure.
What do you think, Robert? Is he mad at me?
No, I don't think he's mad at you. I think he's thinking.
Come on, Trent, talk to me. What do you got to say?
No, I'm sitting here thinking that you put it in perspective. I think when it comes to, like you just said, like setting up my kids for success, like there's a lot of things like, with China, for instance, would be like, the educational system being what it is, it's impossible for a foreigner to enter, even if they know Chinese already, and be successful, enter their, like, go to a school there, other than like a international school or a private school. It would be like really hard. So then they're kind of on the outside looking in. That seems to be what I see with missionaries there. And so that would be one thing, I think, one of the biggest things when it comes to her happiness, trying to navigate that. Really the thing is, like, in China, even the kids that, from what I understand, if it's anything like Taiwan's a bit like this as well, but not as much. But there's just so much pressure on kids in the school system that I'm not sure I would want her in there anyway.
You understand, please. That's not what I'm saying.
Right. No, I'm just saying, like, so that what I mean is, like, when it comes to like social life, what I'm trying to say, because that would be like what I would be thinking about. I wouldn't be as concerned about, what academics or whatever, but so yeah, that's going to be hard to navigate. I think it seems like it's been hard for other missionaries to navigate in China when it comes to their kids, getting them plugged in to a social life. Because the reality is the other kids. So even if your kid's not in the system, in the educational system of pressure there, the other kids are. So they're so busy between daylight and dark, which, like I said, it's a bit like that here in Taiwan. I mean, kids are so busy. From the moment they wake up, they're in school, and many of them get home around 9, 10, 11 o'clock even. And then they wake up and do it again the next day. So they're in school all day. As opposed to our kids, like, for instance, I'll show up and pick up the kids at, 4:30, 4:30, and they're at home or wherever we go. And that's not normal. And so even that sometimes here in Taiwan is tough, because it's hard for them to make connections socially with other kids because of that. But there's not just kids out, other than the really little kids here. There's not just kids out like 9 years old playing at the park after school. Like, you will not see that ever.
All right. What
unless
about
it's Saturday?
talk to me about the international schools there in China?
International schools in China, I don't know anything about really, other than, they're expensive. That's about it.
Then you need support. And there's probably not an international school in every city.
Right. All the bigger cities would have them, but you get down to cities of, I guess, what would be considered smaller, 2-3 million, you probably wouldn't have international cities there. International schools there.
So, what I would say to you is this, and I really dealt with this in my heart. My number one ministry in the world is Betty. Everything else takes a back seat. Betty has to be number one. Cheyenne has to be the first and only person you think about. And because 51 years from where I married her, I'm still with her. We're two old people now. My second person at in my list are my children. I just preached at the Bible college in Peru. We had probably 800-900 people a night, and at least 80 pastors there, and that Robert counted. And I preached. The theme of the week was, how do you have a ministry that lasts? Because my ministry is still lasting and it's still going on. And so it was like Austin's here 25 years after he started this pastor school to talk to us. And so my first message was on, you have to love God with all your heart. If you want a ministry that lasts, you got to love God with all your heart. Number two, second message, if you want a ministry that lasts, you have to love your wife with all your heart. Third message, if you want a ministry that lasts, you have to love your children with all your heart. Fourth last message, if you want a ministry that lasts, you have to love your people. But they're number four. Number 5, my message was, if you want a ministry that lasts, you can't quit. And number 6, my message was, the last message, you have to love the ministry. And so I say all that to say to you, on this trip, and let me put it to you this way. I looked around and I knew from when I was 15, a girl was a member of our church and she was a school teacher. And her dad was a retired pastor, and she went to church. She was a single lady, and she made the comment, I would never be in a ministry. I know how I would not marry a man in the ministry. I know how they treated my dad. All my life, I met missionaries, MKs, missionary kids, and preachers' kids that hated the ministry, and many of them hated God. And have you ever met those people?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I didn't want that to be my kids. And to be blunt, honest with you, maybe my greatest success in ministry is I've been married 51 years. My second greatest, my 4 kids love Jesus. And they all still go to church. They all want to do something, they want to do something for God. And so I want that to be your heartbeat. I want that to be your heartbeat. I want you to, I want to ask you to, I don't care. None of the rest of it matters. The first church I worked in was a wonderful church, and God blessed my ministry there enormously. But you don't even know about that church. I mean, that church was 1973. You weren't born, were you?
No.
Exactly. But Betty was with me then, and Betty's with me now. 1975, while we were there, Chris was born. Chris is still with me, and those people love me. They even had me back to preach. But I need to ask you to really pray and meditate, and then I need you to listen to Cheyenne and hear her say what she doesn't say. So I will tell you this, 51 years of experience here, worth whatever it's worth. She says things to you that you don't hear. You don't even know she said it because you're not paying attention. So she may say something like, out of nowhere, it'll just slip out and it'll be a 10-second comment. She'll say, I really like a dishwasher. And that's it. That's it. She's gone. And you'll never hear it again. But she just told you, I wish we could have a dishwasher. I'm just telling you how you have to listen. She may say to her daughter, yeah, the thing I miss the most is, boom, and it's done. And you heard her. She didn't pay attention. So when I heard Betty say the thing I miss the most, I would go, I can get that. I can get that done. I can do that. Talk to me.
It's good. No.
You do want, I mean, let me just tell you, I'll tell you your dad's opinion. I'll tell you Jim and Sandy Roberts' opinion. I'll tell you our opinion. Cheyenne is top of the line. You don't beat Cheyenne. But sometimes girls like Betty and Cheyenne and Kelly, they go along to get along and their needs aren't met. So I'm going to tell you one little story real quick. I'm fixing to shut up. It's been an hour of me being pretty strong, so I'm going to shut it up. But When A.W. Tozer died, his wife remarried. Do you know this story?
Not in detail, but I think I know where you're going.
She said, so somebody said to her, I guess it must be disappointing, you can't be married to another A.W. Tozer, probably one of the greatest men of God in the world. She said, no, I really like being married to this guy. And they said, well, that's shocking, we're surprised. And she said, A.W. loved God. This guy loves me. When I heard that story, everybody else was like, oh, that's so sweet. I was like, I don't want Betty marrying somebody after I'm dead and saying, Austin loved God, but he didn't love me that much. I didn't want that. Austin loved Peru. Austin loved the ministry. Betty made a comment the other day. Out of nowhere, she said, yeah, you were never home. And I was like, good night, I blew it. Now, if I'd have stopped her, she'd have said, I didn't mean that ugly. And she didn't. But for me, I take it like, boy, I messed up there. So talk to me. What are you thinking?
Oh, that's good. I'm now questioning whether I've been listening lately. Because I'm sitting here like I don't think I've heard any of this. I'm like,
I can promise you have not been listening. I
yeah,
promise
let me rephrase that. I'm not questioning whether I've been listening lately. I'm realizing I haven't been listening lately.
So, by the way, it can be it can be little stupid stuff. It can be you're laying together on the couch or on the bed watching TV, and she said, I really like this. That's it. I mean, and it's gone. But she just told you this is something I really enjoy. You're taking her out to eat. You've got to hear what she's thinking and not what she's saying. Because one thing about a good wife is she won't necessarily tell you, but she does expect you to know. Robert?
You're not accusing, you're just causing conviction through your question. Your statements.
I can't hear.
He said, I wasn't accusing, but I am causing conviction.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm thinking.
Okay, so tell me about how's Abraham doing?
Austin's son,
Yeah.
he's. I mean, last I heard when I went and visited him last time, he was struggling with friendships. He didn't have any friendships really. He went to school there, and because he's mixed, he was getting bullied a little bit, and then the teachers smacked his hands and stuff, which is common in China. I don't know if they hit him in the face or not, but I mean, all that stuff's fairly common. I mean, it's not, they still do that. So they did something like that. So Austin went to the school, and Austin's half Chinese. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, he is really, as far as culture and all that, stuff done a great job. I mean, so like the situation, for instance, he handled it different than probably I would, for sure. He had a lot more patience to work and everything, but he ended up pulling him out, and so he's doing school at home now. And so that's why he's having a hard time. He's just at home a lot. And I think he's with Austin's wife a lot when Austin's working. So
How old is Abraham?
he's the same age as Macy, so he's 9 now.
I thought he was 9.
Yeah.
He's got to be a big boy now because he's got a massive daddy.
Yeah, he's getting there. He's smart. You can tell he's just a little brainy, but he like I said, and that, just like I said, that seems to be kind of a trend I see, because the educational system it's tough if you're trying to put them in like and I think Austin said the private schools are so expensive. He wasn't thinking about it. I don't know what expensive it is. I hadn't looked at prices or anything. I just heard everyone say they're expensive. I just don't know what that means.
Well, I would like to ask you to look into it a little bit anyway. At least have an idea. What do you need to do when I'll tell you this, you know who's gonna be at your funeral, don't you? Your kids.
Robert.
Yeah.
No, you're gonna be mine. I'm dying for you.
But you know, it's your kids and your wife that stick with you. So I really want to ask you to work on that. All right, shoot at me. Go ahead. I need whatever you want to talk about real quick, and then we'll hang up.
I'm good. Feel like I'm just thinking right now.
You feel like Austin has beat you up today, hasn't he?
No, that's good. This has been great. I mean, this is what I needed here before I went on this trip.
Well, I literally prayed last night. Well, I started praying 3 days ago, and I was like, Lord, and I really think that if you'll listen to this, it will strengthen your marriage like no other. And you're still a young guy. What are you, 35?
34.
34. You're still a young guy, and you've got a lot of marriage ahead of you and a lot of kids ahead of you. And there are things that, I regret I could have done better, but I can definitely help you maybe not make some of the mistakes I made. So there you go.
I think at some point I'd like to talk about, and I'd like to get your opinion on if things didn't work out with a student visa, like other methods, other ways of entering and staying in China. Would it, your thoughts on, because all those other methods seem to take a lot of time out of your week because they're all attached to some type of responsibility, whether it's teaching or whether it's some type of business fees or whatever. Thoughts on whether that would be, you think that would be worth it, going through the trouble of all that just to live in the country, maybe versus trying to still have an impact outside the country. If, again, this is all in theory based on whatever happens.
I'd love to talk to you about that, but let me ask this, is there a possibility you don't want to go?
No, that's not a possibility. It's not a possibility. The thing right now is it seems like there's just no, I think normally you would have like some type of, what's the word I'm looking for? Some type of pattern that you've seen work consistently. And I just feel like with China, you don't really have that, especially don't have that now after COVID. I mean, there's like nobody there that I'm really connected with, especially with a similar situation as far as like wife, kids, stuff like that. That's not married to a Chinese person.
I do think that one of the things you have going for you is that 2026 is a long ways from now. And I think
Right.
I don't know, either Jesus is going to come back. A friend in the military recently made the comment, a major in the Marines, his dad told me that he and people he runs around with, a major in the Marines, said we will be in a shooting war in less than 2 years, and they know that. So I don't know how much of that is Iran and how much of that is China and how much of that is North Korea. But, they're all kind of Russia. I mean, we're at a really weird time in history. And but this guy's a major in the Marines. He's not a believer. Well, he may be a believer, but he told his dad, his dad said, what are the chances we'll be at war? He said 100%, less than 2 years. And it will be a shooting war, quote unquote. I just think, I mean, I love talking. can I just give you a little bit more homework? While you're there, why don't you find out, you know, what maybe Austin can help you, but others, what would be requirements for having a business visa? Like, why don't you find out, like, if you wanted to open a,
Oh, I got something he can make.
okay,
What's that?
I mean, it's like a, I'm just thinking real business. Like if you can fabricate some stuff.
what?
So my little brother works for a, what is it called? Steel mill, but I don't know how much it would cost. He just needs a little component made. Forget what it's called. Anyways, it's for a steel mill and they charge, he needs 40 of them, 40 of them a month. They charge $200 a piece for them.
Nice.
Find that stupid little component anywhere here in the States.
But my suggestion would be that you find out and see what, I mean, I think a whole long discussion would be on delegation. See, I could actually run a business in China probably and do it in less than 4 hours a week. But I'm the kind of guy that hires a person, puts him to work.
Right. Yeah, and that would definitely be like, like Robert just said, just delegating something like that, something small job like that out would be perfect. And my whole thought process with the university thing anyway wasn't like, obviously, I'm going to go in with this and live on this for the next whatever, how many years, because you couldn't do that. So, I was just hoping that that would get me in the door so that I could get connections in China. And because what you need is you need a Chinese to do all that for you.
Well,
So,
I think that I will tell you this. I am certain that there are Americans hooked up with Chinese doing the business over there.
right.
And I just found out within the last two or 3 weeks also that 2 or 3 of the Peruvians I trained live in America now, and they are making major money importing stuff from Peru. And so imports, exports, and from China might be something that you could look into. All you need is a cover. You're not really trying to make a lot of money.
Right.
The Peruvians I just dealt with, they are making, one of them's 50 something years old. And he's going to quit working as a pastor because he makes too much money.
No. Yeah, I wouldn't. I just need something to show cash flow.
Yep.
But they're super nosy right now. It seems like, like they've made visits to Teal's house pretty frequently. They'll just show up. Police officers. Yeah. And I just talked to a guy who lived about 3 hours away from Austin Teal. I talked to him a couple weeks ago, and he said they've been making visits to his house every week the last 2 months. Just
I think
they'll just talk. He says they just talk, but he knows why they're there. They're just talking, but they're just curious.
I think another thing I would consider is maybe in Harbin, where the missionaries left some nationals. Not that you would want to work there and live in that country or that city, but there are very likely some believers in Dalian and Harbin that you could get involved in business with that are trustworthy.
I went up to what's his name, Jason George's church, and we visited some church, and there is a Chinese pastor whose dad runs 3 house churches, and one of them's over 200 people in it. Right outside of I forget where it is, wherever Cannon was, Jinping, whatever.
Jinan.
And the kid came over here to the States, and he went to like Detroit Baptist Seminary or something like that, and got his master's and stuff like that. Real smart kid. Probably a little more reformed, but man, we need to get you in contact with that guy. But it was really interesting because his dad's a national. He's planted multiple churches, and he had a church with 200 people. He said,
Huh. Yeah, that would be interesting.
I don't know if anybody in China has a national pastor that used to work with us that's self-sufficient, self-supporting.
Right. Yeah, I've never heard of that either.
That's a good one for you to be in touch with. And so you need to make a note to get that info to him.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right, would you check on a business visa while you're over there?
Yeah, I'll look into it.
So what time is it? 10 PM?
Yep.
And so we're fixing to fall back. This will be 11 o'clock your time.
Right.
Oh, you'll be cussing me then, won't you?
Nah, it's all good.
Are you around 2 weeks from now?
Let me see. Yeah, should be.
Okay. I'm gonna put us down for 2 weeks from now, all right?
Okay, sounds good.
All right. I've enjoyed it. God bless you.
Oh, actually, hold on.
Yep.
No, I'll be in China.
Okay, let's
So,
look. Tell me when
next-
you go. I got my
Either
calendar.
next week or the week after that.
Okay, wait a minute. So the 5th of November, you're gone. Right?
Right.
Are you back the 12th?
Yes.
You wanna do it then?
Yeah, we can do that.
All right, I'm putting it on my calendar right now.
Me too. Sounds good.
All right, I will look forward to being with you then on that day, and I'll get a good report on everything from China and how you and your wife.
Sounds good.
All right, God bless you, Doc.
Thank you. I'll see you.
Bye-bye.
See ya.